Tax season is finally here, which is generally one of the best times to make money flipping cars. But at the same time, if you're not doing the right things, you could be leaving a lot of money on the table. So I'm going to give you 5 simple things that you can do to maximize your profits in this competitive time. Let's get right into it. Tip number 1 is just going to be selling cheap cars primarily. And when I say cheap cars, I would primarily mean either selling cars that can sell around $5,000 or below, or even better around $3,000 and below. And obviously, of course, that's really going to be the main amount of money that most people are going to be getting in their returns. So if they can just use that amount of money and just quickly put that into the car, that's really just going to amount in you being able to sell that car the fastest. And really, I would even say the cheaper the better. Tip number 2 is going to be just focusing on selling cars that are high in demand in your area. So of course, cars that are basically high in demand in just about any area are cars like a Honda Civic, Toyota Camry, stuff like that. But to really focus on what's the best selling in your area, I would highly suggest just looking around your area and just seeing what's the cars that most people really drive. You know, if you're seeing a lot of Jeep Grand Cherokees driving around, if you're seeing a lot of, Chevrolet Silverados, if you're seeing Hyundai Sonatas, whatever the case may be, if you're seeing a lot of those things, generally speaking, those are going to be the things that can sell really well and will also result in you being able to sell that car a lot faster, just because there's going to be a lot more people that's going to want that specific car that you're selling. Now moving on to tip number 3, and that's just focusing on detailing. And this is just something I have to mention because a lot of people just get that overall thing a little wrong, where just because they're selling a cheap car, that also means that they're not even going to attempt to do just about any work with the car. They might just purchase it, even if it's kind of a little dirty, they'll just post it up right after and try to make some profit. And though yes, you can make some profit doing this, a lot of people, just because they see that it's dirty, are going to also think that it wasn't maintained well. And even if the car is cheap, they also generally want the car to be reliable. And if it's a dirty looking car, they're going to directly account that with being a non-reliable car, or a car that wasn't maintained well from the previous owner. So just take, even if it's just an hour or an hour and a half, to just detail the car. Even just doing simple things like vacuuming it up and doing some interior detailing on it, like wiping down the dashboard, cleaning up the seats, things like that, that will just bump up the value and allow you to sell it a lot quicker as well. Tip number 3 is just hitting them with a little bit of fear of loss, or basically just showing them that there's competition in the area as well on their side. What people have to understand when you're going into this tax season is that not only is it competitive for us as people that are buying the cars to flip, but it's also technically competitive for them as the buyer of our cars. But a lot of times when people are looking for cars around this time, they don't really understand that. So when you're posting up your car, and let's say you have someone coming to check out your car, you can even let them know. Let's say if you have someone coming at 4 o'clock later today and someone's trying to come and meet up with you, you should potentially just let them know even before they come that, hey, yeah, you have someone that's going to come later in the day. Sure, you can try to slip them in before that, but you have other people that's going to come as well. Or it could be potentially after, while you're doing the negotiating. You don't have to be sleazy with it. Don't act all sleazy and be like, okay, well, if you don't want to buy the car, someone else will in another couple hours. First of all, you don't even know that. Still try to close that deal then and there, but just let them know that, hey, yes, there is someone that is going to be coming in another 2 hours from now. And of course, only do that if you're actually being honest. Don't just make this up if there's no one actually going to come to check out the car. But just letting them know that there's other people that are interested, and especially if there's multiple people that's interested in that exact car, a lot of times we'll just hit them again with that little bit of that fear of loss and drive them to make a decision right then and there, and potentially even bump up the price of what they would have paid for that car as well. And if you did want to see as like a bigger picture of how I do this, like I do this as a full-time basis myself, buying and selling cars, and how I make $5,000 to $10,000 per month flipping auction cars while only working under 10 hours per week. I actually had a full masterclass training I put together. You can go to the link in the description below to see it. It's a free training. You don't have to pay anything for it, but this will teach you a lot of the fundamentals to really do this in a bigger way, even if you have a job or anything like that you also have to balance with. And then tip number 5 is just getting help to expand what you can purchase. And what I mean by that is, generally speaking, for most people, when you're going out to buy different cars, usually you're going to be staying in your comfort zone of the type of cars that you would generally try to buy to flip later for profit. But in times like this, if you're talking about tax season specifically, whether you're buying cars from private sale or you're buying cars from auctions, it's also going to be a lot more competitive as the buyer trying to buy those cars as well to be able to flip later for profit. So these cars that are a little bit cheaper, that would generally be to sell around $1,000 or so to flip, might now be selling selling for a decent amount more money. But what you could do is you can actually try to get help from, let's say, like a mobile recon guy, someone that can do potential body work or maybe painting a car or anything like that. Something that you wouldn't normally be able to go for because you don't have the skill set for it. You can hire it out to someone else and allow that to be a way to still snag up some great deals that usually you would pass on, and most people also would as well. This is actually one of the things that I did in one of the last videos that I made on my flipping series, where I'm flipping $1,000 to $100,000. I bought a Chevrolet Silverado that needed body work that I usually cannot do myself, but because he was able to do, the mobile recon guy that I have, then I was able to purchase that car, still get great profit off of it, and have another car that I could flip rather than something that I would have just normally had to pass on. But that's everything. Hopefully at least one of these tips were helpful to you, and as I mentioned, if you want to find a little bit more helpful stuff, just go to the link in the description below to see that full masterclass training and how you can get to that same point yourself. But that's everything. Like the video if you found it helpful. Until next time, peace.